Hey, welcome to the RSP Film Room. I'm Matt Waldman with the Rookie Scouting Portfolio, but that's no surprise if you're on this show. What is a pleasant surprise is that Mark Schofield and I are joined by Dan Hatman of the Scouting Academy. Dan, welcome back.
Hey guys, I got jealous when you were jumping in here watching some film, and I hadn't had a chance to watch some of these guys, and so let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where when you get that message and Dan's like, "Yeah, I'd like to join in." We're like, "Well, of course." So it was just a matter of just working that in. It's kind of like forgetting your buddy who just like, "Yeah, I'd like to do this too," and it's like, "Yeah, let's."
Well, with the 7-month-old who doesn't sleep, like time
Yeah.
has not exactly been plentiful. So the fact that it
Yeah.
worked out at all, I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You either got a battle royale, a pit crew, or a scrum going on at any moment of the day right now. So,
Pretty much,
yeah.
pretty
So,
much.
well, cool. Well, the guy we're going to watch today is Davis Mills out of Stanford. It's interesting. Mark, where do you have Davis Mills ranked in this class? What are your thoughts?
Let's see. He's QB 7 for me. He and Mond and Trask and Newman are like my next four. And in many ways they could be interchangeable in terms of how they come off the board, whether it's early, whether it's later. It's really going to be dependent on scheme fit, need. I think say Newman is a bit more on the developmental side. All of these guys I think are more developmental, potential starter players than guys that if you miss out on somebody in the top 5, you're like, okay, well, we can get this guy in the second and he can start for us. Maybe, late year 1, early year 2. I think all 4 of them are sort of developmental guys, but Mills checks one massive box for me, and that's the competitive toughness angle. And that's such a huge part of my evaluation and my grading scale. And so that's a reason why I know that there are a lot of questions about him. I know a lot of people wondering, like, what does he do well? That is big.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dan, what are your thoughts initially on Mills based on just what you've seen on him and what you think we're about to see?
So just to prep a little bit, because this is going to be my first long-term exposure to him. And so I wanted to buzz through a little bit. I like to focus on throws over 10 yards. It's just, more NFL-oriented things. I'm always trying to compare a college play to the NFL. Like, does this add up? Is this equivalent in some way, shape, or form? And one of the things when I grabbed some UCLA and some Washington tape to watch was just it seems to have a little bit of pre-snap to him. Understanding certain coverages and where safeties may be, and willingness to pull the trigger early. He puts the ball up there. Now it doesn't always end up well, but it seems like he's got a little pre-snap to him. Really interested to see if that sticks as we really dive into it.
Yeah, and that's what's I can see all of both of what you guys are saying with him. It's kind of funny. I have him ranked 5th overall, just ahead of Zach Wilson, which is I know a lot of people have Zach a lot higher, but I see him as kind of more of the blank slate in this class. The guy who there's certainly things he has to work on, but there's nothing that I'm looking at where I feel like it's a deleterious situation for his development path. It's just a matter of developing more. I think that he reads leverage pretty well. He has some areas where we can see where it doesn't happen. I see some opportunities where he can throw people open and make those types of decisions, even if his receivers aren't necessarily on the same page with him right now at times. But I see some of those things, and you see the physical abilities are there, at least enough that within a couple of years, this could be a guy that could sneak his way into a starting lineup, kind of grow into that type of role. Maybe it's a little longer than 2, but I think long term he could be a nice backup in the league who, if he gets the good fortune of some playing time or just really being a good quarterback room, we could see this guy blossom into a potential starter, maybe with his second contract. So we're going to take a look. We're going to start with Mark's tape and go from here. So Mark, we'll lead it off, and we got the Washington game right up here too high. What's going on here?
Yeah, and this is kind of an example of what Dan was talking about, that sort of pre-snap because he likes this matchup on the slot fade, this sort of smoke fade here, and takes advantage of it. And what I like about this is it's an example also of what you were just talking about, Matt, that sort of leverage throw, because he does have that safety lurking. He does have this slot defender on inside leverage. So he puts this to the outside. It's a quick decision. He likes the matchup. He pulls the trigger and gets the ball out. He knows it's 5-man protection, so he doesn't have a ton of time. So he's going to make a quick decision. And I know there might be some questions from people about, well, why doesn't he sort of lead him upfield here? And I understand that. And I understand why people might say that. But again, you've got that safety lurking. You've got the inside leverage of the defender. So he puts it to the outside and he's got to get it out quick. And so this is, I think, a nice example of some of the stuff that he does both pre-snap and post-snap.
And it's a nice late turn here, too. I mean, this is a late turn throw still. It still qualifies in that respect. So if you've got to make a late turn, and you're looking off, or you're looking at the safety at least to begin, and you have that interior pressure, it seems I can understand the argument for why you throw this guy open in the safest possible way.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of what we talked about with, I believe it was Wilson. We talked about it some with Jones too. Like, you've got this guy open, like, put it on him.
Yeah.
Don't try to be too careful with this. Don't try to be too cute with this. If you lead him upfield, you are going to bring that sort of center fielder safety into play.
Right.
If you keep this throw up the bottom of the numbers, that safety is going to make a play on the body or the ball. And so here, by sort of putting it to the outside, you increase the chances for a completion. And really, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
So this was one that caught my eye as well. And to me, it was that quick decision. You can watch his eyes go to the safety, move to the hash. It's a mirrored concept, so he's got it to both sides. He seems to have some understanding of where the roll is most likely to happen. They're going to roll down to trips. He's ready for it. This is one of those I would tag when you get the chance to interview him, and you're going to put together that reel of plays you want to talk to him about, and just ask him, Davis, what was your goal with the ball placement? And get him to talk through it. Maybe it's one of those I'd love to, if you get a chance to hit it with the coach. Hey, again, coach, where did you want him to do that? Because I'm always trying to figure out intent, and I think we all agree we can't exactly measure intent. We're giving a hypothesis to it. And this would be one of those things I would definitely flag and be like, hey, if we could work on figuring out intent, then we could measure execution against that and we'd have better information.
That's a great point. So how would you feel, just let's play hypothetical with this, because, these are the types of answers you've dealt with in the past, or these types of situations you've dealt with in the past. Say the intent was for him to thread the needle here, but he doesn't thread the needle here. And then say there's a couple other plays that are very similar to this one, where he doesn't do that. Then what do you assess about the player? How does that change your outlook with him if otherwise everything else was pretty darn promising? Is it a knockout factor for you, or is it something that you think can be developed, or are you like, we're going to have to just live with the fact that this guy's more play it safe? How much do you assess this and think this is an easier thing to push him to do different?
So there's always the two sides, right? So right now, being an external film analyst, not with an organization, you run up against a limit in terms of what you do. But I was trying to put myself in the seat of what would I want if I was in charge. And so I would be making note, let's say, again, he wanted to lead it upfield. He underthrows this. So it turns into a back shoulder, but that wasn't intent. I'm looking for trends. So I'm going to now look for all of I call these red line throws, right? The receiver should be on the red line, given a little bit of a cushion outside towards the sideline for him to place the ball in. I'm going to look at other red line throws. And if he's consistently missing those, he's out of bounds, they're not on the upfield shoulder, or what have you, then I've flagged an issue, right? And now I've got a trend of an issue. He's having a difficult time with this throw. Now I sit down with my OC and my quarterback coach, and I look him in the eyes and I say, how quickly, or if at all, can we fix this? And make them give us an estimate on that. Because if you're a advanced scout, like that was my job in the league, if he's a back shoulder only guy, we're going to give that to our defensive coordinator. We will find that as advanced scouts, and I will be giving to my defensive coordinator all of our DBs that week. Just sit on the back shoulder. It's all he wants to throw. Don't be scared about the upfield. He doesn't place it well. And we would prepare accordingly for that. And so
So
my coaches would have to give me an answer on how quickly we could fix this.
So I'm just curious down this rabbit hole. I know we're on the first play, and I still have multiple questions, but I'm having fun with this because, as you said that, I wonder how much scouts manage upward and how much discussion there is about scouts managing upward. Because I can imagine the dysfunctional situation of, say, there's a quarterback prospect that we know the GM's high on politically. We know that the head of scouting is high on him politically. It seems like you and your fellow employees kind of have a different feel right now because the director might be in a different office and everyone else has watched him, and that we haven't had this conversation yet. But it seems like the whole organization is really sold hard on this guy, and you're like, I know that if I ask the OC the question, the OC is going to just fall in line and go, "Oh yeah." And we've seen maybe we've seen in the past with other players that the OC is overly optimistic about certain things, or he's just kind of fallen in line with the with whatever the GM thinks or what everybody else thinks about it, and you have that kind of a listen. I just like to run the plays and get the game plan, and I want us to win, but this isn't my real area. This is my area of expertise, so I don't want to get into anything crazy with people and do that. I know we have that dynamic in every office place. So how do you do that?
About the hardest part of this is groups of humans trying to come to a decision.
Right.
And so I think what happens for a lot of us that sit there and do this, what do I like? What do I want? What would I build? What are my rankings? It's us, right? We just have to convince ourselves.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about trying to work in those structures, it gets to be really unique because all those things you mentioned occur. And, can you be honest as an organization on whether or not we do develop or how quickly we develop, or if our coaches just do scheme and we're going to outsource development to these third-party coaches that work in the off season, or, whatever the case may be, do you have decision makers that are boisterous about who they like, who definitely influence down and make other people kind of clam up? Or do you have those decision makers upwards that just have open ears and a closed mouth? They know what they think, but they want everybody else to have a voice. I always like watching those Chris Ballard episodes, the Colts shows.
Yeah.
He's one of those that's going to let everybody have a voice before he interjects with his thoughts to not bias anybody, which is something I appreciate.
Right.
But yeah, these are the things that are hard because an individual could come up with, hey, I like or don't like this, but ultimately we're going to put this kid into a room with others, and I would hope that we would be working with them to build a timeline for what we expect out of development.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, as you say this, I think that the next article that someone needs to write is the team organization as a corporate entity or the team organization as a mom and pop shop, and the positives and negatives of each, basically. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. So let's go to the next play here. And it looks like we have a little blitz going on here.
Yeah, he's going to work this little – it's not really a switch concept because outside goes out, inside stays in to the right side of the formation here. But I love how he reads this. I love the timing and the placement on this.
Yeah, you can see
the ball coming out. And that receiver has yet to even make his break.
And I see that as a common element with Mills, is that what I've seen over and over again is the anticipation is strong with his game.
Yeah.
And this is the throw that Wilson ate on all year, was these high inside corners to the field.
Yeah.
When they're running outs against it, he ate that up all year, anticipating. The thing I've been interested in with Mills more than Wilson is I saw more anticipation with more types of throws.
Yeah.
Than with Wilson.
Yeah. And that's something that's really impressed me with Mills is the anticipation on different concepts against different coverages to different levels of the field. Like, generally speaking, if you throw an out route with anticipation against off coverage, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, look, even I can do that. But when you're attacking between the numbers, between the hash marks against zone or even some man coverage looks with anticipation, like that's something that stands out to me. So this is one example of it, but I've got some others here as well.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see here is the anticipation's strong. The placement of the ball can be a mixed bag with him.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's something like seam routes, safety splitters, things like that. That's something that he, and I think another guy, Trey Lance, has kind of struggled with. I think if you watch him against Colorado, you watch him against UCLA, some of those he missed, some of those he hit. So he's really sort of trying to get a feel for those routes. And that might just come with reps. I mean, he's a guy that hasn't played a ton.
Yeah. And it's not like he's too far off a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like annoyingly less than pinpoint accurate.
And it's not like he's getting heel clicked. You know, it's not like he's bringing his feet together, what have you. You know, he's trying to build that base. I'd be interested. This is where like private workouts are really nice when you can just kind of watch somebody up close and see how that chain fully comes together. I think there's some things a little bit loose in that follow through piece, but again, this is that, you know, the two runners get to first base at the same time. One has bad mechanics, one has good mechanics. Which one do you want?
Right. So what we have here, this is nice up the seam here.
Yeah, this is a nice little delayed concept here. Outside receiver to the right side is going to sit for a second, then break to the post. And this is one of those sort of anticipation type throws to the middle of the field. I like how he reads this because this time they spin from what looks like 1 to 2. He opens left, reads that, comes back on time in rhythm. And again, you see a bit of an anticipation throw. This time against this cover 2 look, gets it over the second level defenders in front of the third level defenders. Hit, pitch, throw. This is a nice little read and throw.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that, you know, I've seen him in some other games earlier in the season where he had trouble getting it over that linebacker.
Yeah. Same thing on those sort of seam routes, those sort of second level throws where you've got to layer that ball in there. That's where he struggled. And that's, again, a feel type of throw. It's like the difference between driving and chipping, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have a feel for that around the greens, you know, if I ever get to golf again. Whereas, you know, this type of throw here, you've got to have a feel for that, where those underneath defenders are, the release point, the trajectory, what you got to put on it, what you have to take off of it. That's something I think he's still trying to figure out, but this is an example of them doing it right.
Well, if you want a good laugh, take me golfing. This will be good. That would be fun. And just make sure I don't use any of your clubs. That's all I would say.
I don't even know where my clubs are at this point. I mean,
golfing is a contact sport for me, I think. So
it's a contact sport for me as well. It's usually me and the houses a lot in the fairways.
Yeah, well, for me, it's usually taking a driver and splitting it in half without putting it over my knee and sending one of the drivers flying over a cliff. So
I gave up on hitting the woods years ago. Yeah. Just irons off of everything, and I've got a slight chance.
One of the last times I actually played, I went tin cup style. I just played with a pitching wedge the entire round.
Yeah.
Like,
if that's the one you can hit, like get after it.
I mean, look, you know your limitations, right?
I was going to be 3 over anyway. Might as well do it, dinking and dunking.
As long as I can lay on the green and use it like I'm playing billiards, I think I'm okay. But otherwise, the only ball I tend to hit pretty darn well with some sort of object is a racket with a racquetball. That's about it. So, all right. So let's move on. We'll get another angle of that. Again, you know.
I like the eyes.
Yeah. His eyes are consistent on that level, and this really is a sweet throw.
And that's one of those where the difference between doing it once and, you know, consistency.
Yeah.
It's nice to see them do it, right? So you know that tool exists for them, but then it's whether or not they can pull it out and use it over and over again. I'll keep our golf analogy going here.
And he stands nice and tall. I see this about him. He seems to stand nice and tall. Yeah, I like the crouch with his legs. Like his legs are in a good, or at least in a good enough position where you can work with them and not have to undo a lot. It's just more of maybe adding more to, you know, tweaking things in a way. They're a little bit better. Like instead of having that straight front leg like Wilson, you kind of have a little bit more springiness to his ability to move and work through his hips, even if it's not exactly the best mechanics that you've ever seen.
And one of the things that guys like Steve Fairchild, some other quarterback guys I've worked with, is just the balance, particularly in the upper body and the shoulders. You know, we look at those kind of things, but can they keep that on a flat plane and still work?
Good point.
Here we go. Now, this is right in the middle of where the wheels literally came off in this game.
Yeah.
You know, Stanford was up 20-3. And in that third quarter into the fourth quarter, this is a fourth quarter play, I thought the kid was going to pack up the 10, especially after this play, because this is the classic you can never assume as a quarterback. He assumes that corner's staying high. He rotates down. He doesn't read the rotation like at all, and basically throws a hitch route to the corner.
Right.
And this is, I know, Matt, you've talked about this a lot. You know, it's those memes, right? With the like jacked dog and then the tiny little baby dog.
Yes.
Like Mills when he isn't confused, and then Mills when they actually like confuse him with a rotation. Like that's what he's like.
And those are so brutal when you start getting into the mental toughness.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not necessarily his ability to read. We've seen him make reads and diagnoses of rotations and things. It's whether or not, again, that consistency is there.
Yeah. And that's why I think if anybody is late to the Davis Mills evaluation, just watch. All you need to do is watch this game. This is the only game you need to watch, because as we're going to see here in a second, it's now 34-20. It went from 20-3 Stanford to 34-20 as a result of this play. And you've got to be able to shake that off as a quarterback. And he does that, that's why he checks that competitive toughness, mental toughness box in my mind. Because if he had packed it in, I would have packed in the evaluation. And I would have said, look, no, this kid, he's not going to be tough enough.
Even just the way he tries to get after it. Down there. You know, you won't see quarterbacks necessarily chasing down their interceptions quite to this degree. I mean, he gets knocked on his butt,
right?
But he's hustling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what I like about this play, this is Dragon, 3 on the post, unders from 2 and 1, and I just like the read here. It's just a quick throw on the under, but I just like the read, the quick decision. He sees the Tampa 2 with linebacker matching 3. So he replaces that vacated linebacker with the ball. Again, they're driving. It's late. You've got to make quick reads and throws and keep the offense moving. And I just think this is a nice example of him like working the concept, going 1-2 in the read, getting the ball out, good placement, giving the guy a chance.
Well, and to your point with game situation, you know they're going to start protecting.
Yeah.
If you understand game flow, you understand they're going to start protecting. They're going to go too high, stay too high.
Yeah.
Be able to confirm quickly, look at that backer turn with 3, and know that he's got 2 under. It's boom. He's at the top. That the rhythm's there. When those guys talk about West Coast and feet syncing up with the concept, there's no hitch back there, right? He got to the top. He already had the read done, and the ball's out.
Yep.
This is those kind of things, the guys that come out of that West Coast language and philosophy. Not they all run the same plays, but they're going to enjoy this because it syncs up with what they believe in.
And there's something to be said about watching a quarterback and seeing that he's not executing a task, he's actually playing the game. And when you watch this type of play, what you see is someone who's thinking strategically about what's going on, and there's a number of steps all combined into this as opposed to, am I getting my plant right? Am I getting the throw off on time? It's more about, okay, here's what they're giving me, here's what I'm taking. And I think that there are times, and maybe this is kind of the equivalent of anthropomorphizing like a tiger and saying that you've looked into its eyes and see what it's feeling. But I think there's something to be said about, you can look at a play sometimes and say, okay, he's seen the game in phases as opposed to tasks. And that's something that I want to see from a quarterback as well.
Well, in Mark, I mean, you've watched this man for a long time, and by no means am I making a comparison, but where's Tom Brady most successful, right? It's taking everything that the defense gives him. It's knowing what's there. It's knowing when to hit it. It's not wasting any other time. It's that efficiency. If it's a deep shot, if it's underneath for 6 yards, it's underneath for 6 yards.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to make this game harder than it already is. Like, if they're going to give you that throw, take it. And by the way, I think I called that Dragon. That's Arizona. I don't want the other football nerds.
Uh-oh. They're coming for you.
No. Edit that out, Matt.
You looked
Can't be
into
making mistakes.
the dragon's eyes, I think, and that's what
I think
happened.
that's exactly
You
what
got
happened.
too friendly. It's all right. We'll edit that out, or we'll just
No,
all
we don't need
pretend.
that.
We'll all pretend that we haven't heard it. That's what
Yeah,
it was.
we get that
We
man
can
in
put
black.
dragon gifs and all
Yeah.
the thread of this thing when it goes out.
Right.
See, there we go. It was a puff dragon. That's what it was. It
That's
was
exactly what
Puff the Magic Dragon.
Need the Puff the Magic Dragon after this draft cycle. But here you go. Overtime now. Remember, it's 34-20. Now here's your game winner. Likes the matchup, drops it in perfectly. Like, again, this is the game to watch. If you like the kid, this is the game to watch. If you don't like the kid, this is the game to watch. You're going to find something either way. But I really like the fact that he came back in this game.
Yeah.
And I do think that's the kind of stuff that matters, because playing this position is obscenely hard. And he could have packed it in. He could have given up. But to lead the team back, and, you talk to some people in and around UCLA, they'll say, look, we threw everything we had at this kid, and it started to work for a while, but he beat us back.
Yeah,
And that's impressive.
And they absolutely did throw some interesting stuff at him that I don't think I saw other defenses throw at him.
And like you said, you can't place that better with where the DB's turned.
Yeah. We'll give it one more look and move on to Colorado.
So fast with the decisions.
Yeah.
Pre-snap one, but still.
Yeah. All right, we got it. Sells pressure here that climbs out.
Pressure, but they drop. And this is a perfect ball. Again, it's sort of that too high. They're matching two here. That's just another really nice throw. And it's one of those throws that we've talked about where he's got to sort of layer it a bit, get it over that underneath defender that's trailing, but drop it in, before those safeties can break on it. Nice read, in rhythm throw between the hash marks.
Yeah.
They let him challenge the middle of the field. And sometimes when you're watching these college quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, like everything's to the numbers and to the outside. They don't want to really attack the middle of the field a ton. Stanford let him attack the middle of the field. And you're going to have to attack the middle of the field at the next level.
And
because teams will just take stuff away from you, and you got to be able to do it.
Yeah, he reads the leverage so well. This was a play that I put on Twitter a couple of months ago, highlighting my appreciation for what this guy might be able to become.
Yeah, again, it's a lot of projection with him. But I do think that there are reasons to like him, provided the value is right when your team's on the clock.
Well, we look at some of the other guys that have been taken in that day 2 window, in those development labels. It was Jacob Eason a year ago.
Yeah.
The Colts were hoping they could take a kid and turn it around. But I like more of what I see from this kid in terms of how he plays the game than just Eason's stature and arm.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm with you.
Again, you'd like that on the other shoulder. Again, he doesn't have that pinpoint, but it's not that far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Annoyingly close.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I see. All right, so let's move on here. Let's see how much overlap we have with this particular one between Mark and Dan and myself. We're going to see. We can look at the first play here, and we get the Washington game.
Yeah, so again, for me, it was just taking a look at how he was processing things post-snap and then the conviction that he had from there, which was very interesting to me.
Yeah. Because you see a too high look.
You see with those guys consistently. He knows where that safety sits post-snap. Yeah. He knows where the concept is. The ball's already out before the receiver's even. Now, again, this is that leading throw we were talking about before, right? That leading red line throw. Did he want a back shoulder? Where did he want to put it? That is an area of concern for me in his game. That's not a throw that is, easily catchable for a receiver in that window on a consistent basis. And then again, I want to be working with my staff to how do we tighten that up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, where's the line between easily catchable and getting smashed?
You're talking about where the safety comes into play?
Yeah.
Well, that's where you want to use that sideline. His location isn't bad. from the standpoint of being towards the sideline. It's just he didn't give – if he gives a little more air,
Yeah.
and he makes it one of those things where the receiver doesn't have to be laying out laterally with one hand to try to kind of corral it, as opposed to can frame it a little better.
With a better turn.
So, and again, I want to sound like we're nitpicking because we are, and that's where we're at when you're doing this kind of work is reasonably it's there, but when you're trying to split hairs between what really works and what's going to work at the next level, I mean, you put that ball there with some NFL DBs and they will at least bat it away, if not take it away. Yeah.
I'm all about non-ridiculous nitpicking, by the way. So I really, if anyone says, you're nitpicking, usually it's not, I'm not having people in the NFL tell me I'm nitpicking, but I'm having, people on social media telling me I'm nitpicking. If they do, then I know I'm doing my job. So, at least 97% of the time. So
to me, it's just about, is it constructive criticism? Like
exactly.
If you look the kid in the eye and say, listen,
exactly,
it's a completion. You did a good job on a large part of it. But if you can fix this last part, this can consistently work at the next level.
Yeah. And it's that ball is definitely more on a line than it needs to be. All right, so here we go. We got ourselves some pressure. Again, we have a too high look pre-snap. Mills, looks like he understands.
This is where you got to understand what your protection's going to be, where the hots are coming from, what you need to throw off of, and all these creepers and sims that are there.
Yeah. I have this play as well.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. This is a for him. He sees it, right? And he's feeling like with that safety vacated, he's going to win against this linebacker. The problem is the nature of the throw and what this allows the corner to do to come underneath, because the corner's playing with great vision and takes it away. He's too soft and he's under. He needed to be more aggressive with the ball placement and really lead it upfield where the body of the receiver could have shielded that.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit soft. He's under, and that corner takes it away. And so these are these little details about his game that he's got to work on. Again, he hit the top and made a decision. I actually can understand and agree with the decision based on everything he saw. But he's got to put that, again, up the hash over the linebacker if he wants to keep that away.
Yeah. And this is what I love about his game, or what I've talked about at the top with his game. Even though this is a mistake, what you're seeing here is it awful mechanically? No. Is there like a major barrier to him being able to fix this? And to me, the major barrier, I don't think that's a major barrier. I think it's more of a craft thing. It's like, hey, listen, when you have this situation, you did everything right up until you let the ball out, and even the way you let the ball out was fine, even though it could be a little better. At the most part, it's just more understanding, okay, in these situations, when I'm looking pre-snap and I have a guy playing this far off, the way I throw this could put the ball in danger because the defender's that high up. He can possibly make a good read on it. And if you want to eliminate even the possibility of someone making a great play on the ball. And if you are throwing with that in mind, with what to look around at, to me, having that conversation isn't as hard as, we've got to fix your front leg. We've got to fix, how fast you get the ball out. We've got to fix, whether you've even seen whether you're seeing the target appropriately that you're supposed to be throwing to, So that's
and in a sense, like, he did the hard part. He got the hard part right.
Yeah.
Like, he got the read right.
Yeah.
It's just, okay, now the throw.
Yeah.
And the throw will come.
And this is where, when that next level quarterback play, when we talk about the guys NFL level, so schematically and or the receiver route, running it not by the hash, but close to number one, brings that corner into play.
Yeah.
So whether or not this was designed and they didn't care, or whether or not the receiver is supposed to bend in towards the hash and didn't, if Davis wants to make his receiver better, he puts it towards the hash and keeps the corner out of the play. It's just that next level. And this is where, when they talk about playing NFL quarterbacks, it's that hard. It's this stuff. It's knowing so much about your scheme, knowing the opponent's scheme, knowing the opponent players, your players. Oh, and by the way, your own abilities to maximize everybody around you.
And making that call all within about 2 to 3 seconds.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, it's easy. No big deal.
Super easy. Anybody can do it.
It's develop overnight. Develop overnight. No big deal.
It's like playing rhythm changes. There we go. All right. So this is one of those things where also it's fascinating to me because, like, I can think of somebody where I can think of a fan saying something to the effect of, and I want to pose this question to you. All right, well, we had a guy like Jake Locker who seemed to be technically sound in a lot of respects and still couldn't throw an accurate ball. Is this a potential concern with a Davis Mills, or are we getting too simplistic here?
I like, I'm sure you've heard me say it before. I'm big on this analogy of how did the plant grow before the flower bloomed, right? So here we're looking at the flower, we're looking at the outcome, the performance, the result. I want to know how the kid's been developed and how stable has the scheme been. This is a team that was run oriented and they're shifting to more pass to play in this conference at a little different level. You didn't see a lot of 5 wide out of Stanford offenses, in years past, right? And they felt like they could add this element, good, but how long, how much did they invest in bringing him along in this and what's been there? And then you got to figure out the kid. So it's his environments, the things around him, it's him. And ultimately, if you can't isolate those kind of factors with some level of accuracy, and we're just looking at results, we can't predict whether or not it can be developed. If he's had unbelievable coaching from great mentors privately in his school, whatever, they've invested tons of time, they've made everything as simple, they've done everything they can to get him better, and if this is what it's at, well then no, I'm nervous about next level development. But if this is not a lot of reps, multiple schematic changes, change some philosophies, COVID year, didn't have a ton of time to invest in his development, so forth and so on, well then yeah, I think there's a line of logic that there could be a different outcome.
Well, Dan, I'll keep it simple for you. I mean, he's from Duluth, Georgia, so I know that all Georgia players are pretty darn good, and because in Georgia, all they pretty much do is make recommendations about how to avoid COVID, then ignore them, and then go play football. So, I mean, we're pretty. At least that's my experience as a native
if
of
there's any
Georgia.
gear for Georgia high school football at the quarterback position, it's this one, right?
Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if they came from Georgia, odds are you're in pretty good shape. But here we go.
And you talk about when UCLA was throwing so much at them. I mean, there's a lot of rotations.
Mm-hmm.
That boundary safety just finally getting back there. These mixing these quarters looks, these man looks, all the different things that they threw at him. The sim and creepers. This dropper coming late down the hash. But to me, he seems to have a feel for the whole thing. He's seeing the middle field open. He knows where the bender's coming. He understands his matchup. He's checking those safeties, making sure it's not there. I mean, because right now 13 doesn't look open, but he understands the nature of the route versus the coverage. You give your guy a chance.
Yeah.
And you saw the scoreboard. You saw the situation here. I mean, this isn't first quarter open and drive.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a got to have it play.
There's just things, and this is where when you get to that, like, hey, what do I want to do in the second round when it's not obvious, it's not consistent, it's not it's not green light on every box, but what do I want to invest in from development standpoint? This kid intrigues the heck out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of us are sitting here saying, yeah, if you're on the clock at 27, this is a guy
you
that
must
can be
have.
sure.
Yeah.
But I think
that fifth-year option. There is some game theory too. Controlling the fifth-year option at that stage, depending on your quarterback room.
True.
Again, if you're Pittsburgh or something like that, I know they're not in quite that position, but I'm saying those kind of teams.
For sure. And this would be a quarterback that I would like to see the Pittsburgh Steelers actually take. They might actually hit on one of the quarterbacks that they haven't been able to hit on recently. This would be I think this would be a step in the right direction for them compared to the players that they've picked. I'll put it that way. But this is another one of those throws that you mentioned, Dan, in terms of from the beginning, which is, let's look at that placement. Opposite field, under pressure. doesn't put it downfield when he has a chance to do so. But
it's not that he reads it wrong. It's not that he didn't try to hang in there. It's the right read. It's the right right there. He knows he's gonna get hit. He should feel it. He didn't shy away from it, but he just doesn't seem to have this club. Again, I'm sticking with our golf analogy.
Yeah.
This club is not one that he wants to pull. I would not want him to pull this club out very often.
Yeah.
And otherwise, that should be walking.
And it's an ideal situation because you look at the safety first as he's reading this. The safety's leverage is in a position. The only thing that I could imagine that I would try to stretch to justify is that as he's first making the leverage read and looking at the safety's chest is to the sideline. So he might be thinking this guy's sprinting over here.
Yeah.
But then when he plants his foot, yep, safety's still here. And then when he takes that hitch, now if he's already in throw mode with that hitch, maybe mentally you're like he's already factored where the safety was heading and now he's throwing to the outside. But if you're arguing that within this next hitch that he just made, that he can adjust to the fact that the safety is now turning back. If you're thinking that, then you're like, the way the safety's facing just as he's beginning to bring the ball out, he should lead this downfield. But if you're thinking, it's a matter of a step and how you look at this. Because like right here, where the safety's turned, he should be thrown that further downfield. But maybe a step earlier, you could see how he's processing. I got to get this to the boundary because the safety's making a beeline that way.
And this is where I get big into my concept of trending. I'm not going to use one play against the player if I can help it, depending on exposure. But I'm trending again, the first one I'm making note of, was it back shoulder? Was that the intent or did he just miss, right?
Yeah.
And so now I go to the next one and I take a look at it again. All right, well, we're still not quite there. And we go to the next one and still not quite there. Now, at least the first two were catchable, and this one takes it out of it. This is the worst of them thus far.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great point.
I'm stacking up those exposures, and I'm saying, okay, now I go and I write my note and say, I have concerns about the red line throw that I have to work through with him, and I'd have to work through with our coaching staff before we could lock in, that part of it. Because it's not an arm issue. He's not lacking arm strength to make the throw.
Yeah. And it's a great point. And it's one of them. I just wanted to delineate because I know that we have a variety of levels of listeners on this show. So some of them will be thinking exactly the way you are, which is they're listening to what you're saying and they're understanding the whole broad point, the strategic point of how you scout a player overall. And then you're going to see some folks who are still at that stage who are trying to figure out the game, and they're like, but I saw the safety at this point, so why is Dan saying this about this player? And they're not looking at the forest through the trees yet. So it gives us a chance to to remind everybody both that we're talking about the forest, but at the same time I can say, for those of you asking about the tree, here's where the gray area is on that particular play.
Yeah. We talked about that bender before.
Yep.
And here's one again that bites him.
Yeah.
Now I will say it is a heck of a play by the safety. Because when you look at it, one of the things I always take a peek at is, was he missing something else? Did he sacrifice, or is there opportunity cost? Did he sacrifice something else to take this? We talked about taking other things. I don't see anything else at this particular moment that's drastically more open.
Yeah, the only argument one could make, and it's not a good one, I don't think, is the outside right player, just based on the leverage of the defender here working to the outside as this guy's crossing back inside. And even then you're taking a risk. I mean, I think at the angle of it, there's no way he's going to be able to curl back in and make that, cut off that play. But it's short of the sticks. And, if you're looking at the initial part of the read right here, you're thinking this guy's going to break deeper into the inside. This linebacker's not going to be in that kind of position just yet, but.
And so then again we get to how does he understand his offense versus their defense? This defense does a really good job against this concept, right?
Yeah.
Everything for the most part taking away. 13 down at the bottom, is running that same red line ball that we've talked about before. He could have put it up there and kind of the YOLO style and leave it on the outside shoulder and see what happens.
Yep.
He takes a shot at the bender and the safety just breaks like crazy, and that's it's a difficult throw. He's trying to put some touch to get between levels. It gets taken away from him. And again, this is stuff that you will see NFL quarterbacks do on Sundays, and the players take those balls away.
All right, well, let's move forward here.
Some tight splits. I'm always interested in those kind of things, pre-snap. Are they working from condensed? Is it spread and more wide open? And so this is a picture of all the defenders in a tighter area. And again, the anticipation, if you look at where he throws right now, he's throwing this right now because he understands that number 2 is taking that safety.
Yep.
And so he runs that. This is one of those things to me that it's so hard. And I didn't see Zach Wilson make these kind of in the middle of the field anticipatory throws to quite the same degree. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that Davis makes every throw well, but his reads, I think he reads more things at a higher level right now, which intrigues the heck out of me.
Yeah. And it's that kind of, I don't know, it's that kind of thing that I really like about his game. I'm laughing. I kind of when I'm looking at evaluating quarterbacks, just like right now at this stage, the path that I'm on, I feel like, and I'm trying to think or analyze myself and self-scout with some of this, is that I've had a history of players that don't fit the conventional quarterback that I've been high on that maybe other people haven't. I know Mark had the same thoughts about a lot of those players, but I find myself still reacting to the idea that the pocket quarterback is dead, because I don't believe that. And I just believe that this is part of a phase where just because we haven't had maybe a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady type of player come along, I would argue that Andrew Luck was more of that than he was a mobile quarterback.
Sure. He was athletic, but that wasn't the crux of his game.
Right. And so, but again, when we talk about Brady, Manning, Luck, Wilson, Mahomes, Watson, and maybe add Lamar Jackson to that list because of the way that he played, at least over the 2-year period that he's played. We're only talking about 5 quarterbacks. I mean, it's not like, and if we're only talking about 5 quarterbacks at that point, 5 or 6, at least half of them were pocket guys, of that sort. And even Aaron Rodgers, you throw him in there, he's a pocket quarterback who can move. I don't know.
And, and still, what do defensive coordinators often try to do against those more mobile quarterbacks? They try to keep them in the pocket.
Yeah.
They try to prevent them from getting to the outside. And so even if you are a more mobile quarterback, you're going to have to make throws from the pocket in the NFL because that's what defenses are going to try to make you do. And if you can't do that, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. I'm going to lean on a line from Fairchild. He talks about a third of the game is in the pocket on script. Your protection holds, concept works. You just got to execute. A third of the time, the concept can make sense, but you have to extend the pocket. You got to manipulate the pocket to get there. And then a third of the time, the play doesn't work. It's off script and you got to go. And of course, you'd like to check every box. I don't think anybody here would deny that.
Right.
But do you have a path to success in each of those buckets to some degree? And that last play, again, his ability to mentally see and anticipate that with that defensive tackle bearing down on him, that is fighting in the pocket to me. It may not be movement in the pocket, but that's fighting in the pocket to extend the pocket. He didn't shy away and throws that ball. Now he's going to flush out and have to actually move and extend. And again, no one's going to mistake him for Lamar Jackson, but can you throw on the move?
Yep.
It's going to happen. Your body's not going to be in position. You're going to have to throw when everything's not lined up. And this is one of those things with a guy like Mac. We talk about Mac Jones. These are the things about those kind of quarterbacks. When you get to each box, can you check things? There are throws Mac's not going to make on the move because if everything's not lined up, he doesn't have that arm to get there. And so that, I don't use arm strength as the top barometer for anything. It's not my top 5, but it's nice to have to get you out of some jams.
Yeah. Now Mac will take one of these hits. As Mark and I giggled over with Nick Bolton earlier in the week, but this is a nice job of him taking a shot where a defender unloads on him and he knows he's going to have to do it. And it's good placement on the move to his left.
And Mark, you talked about the competitive toughness. You got to take those hits. No OC. You don't scheme them, but you do want a guy that's going to take him. It's going to resonate in the locker room.
Yeah,
you're going to take those to move the ball.
Right on the numbers.
And it's a leadership position, and those moments that resonate in the locker room, those do matter.
Oh, absolutely. So now, again, just formationally, we're looking at a little more spread out here. What can he see and anticipate?
Yeah.
And so now you're talking about really working the pocket, really able to keep your eyes downfield, which to me is one of those traits that, again, not everybody can do. Once a guy starts triggering into a runner, some guys never get their eyes elevated back down to another option. They are a runner.
Yep.
And some guys are moving to throw. So this is rollout. Okay, now here he's a runner, right? But he still keeps his eyes up with free runners coming at him, sees color. Now, again, whether or not your OC wants you to throw back the middle of the field in these situations, I'm sure there's some that say yes and some that say no. We look at process over outcomes as best you can. But he's got his eyes up and he's got his body square, which is, it's not like he threw back across, from a horrible body position. He squares up and gets into that throw, which is why I'm not knocking him for it.
Yeah, I'm not knocking him for this either. I mean, he's got a good vision of what the pitcher is downfield. It's not like a blind throw, right hash mark to left numbers across his body. I mean, he's got a look at it right here, so he knows where all those defenders are. So he knows he can make this throw with relative confidence that some unseen defender isn't jumping it.
Yeah, to me, there's 2 points I think about this play. One is if we're going to talk about folks who are still looking at the trees here, we've seen enough plays from him to know that he will hang in the pocket. So this is one of those situations where maybe he overreacts to working to the outside here. But we're not going to sit there and go, this is a trend with his game. So this is a one-off situation. The second thing that I like is that we've seen players in the past, like a Drew Lock or a Zach Wilson or a Baker Mayfield or some other players, where when they get to this point to the outside, instead of making these extra steps to make sure that you're square and a little further inside and set up the throw, they'll throw a jump pass about right here and try to throw that ball across their body. And they might make it, but it also might end up being a little too high or lead the player too far downfield where you have the defender at the outside the hash be able to undercut the throw. And he takes the time to make sure that he can make that throw in a technically sound way.
Like I said, this is, going into this, my biggest exposure to him other than just little TV scouting. But I didn't know what to anticipate, which is always fun. There wasn't the same kind of narrative on him as on others. And I think that can leave a player out there. Like Justin Fields has been hung out there for a long time as a pinata, right? You're just swinging at it because Trevor Lawrence was always the guy, right? So then it was because usually we knock the top guy. We pick and pick and pick and pick. And so, Justin's hanging out there in a different way, I think, than a guy like Davis is. And so I wish I reconcile that with myself. Like, I had no expectations. I'm not measuring him against those expectations. How did he perform? Is that, arbitrarily moving things for me? But I think generally I like the elements of his game if you're going to take a guy and say, I want to take a year and develop him. But if we had to get into a game, we could survive. I think you could survive with this guy in a game.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And, here's another example of a rotation that he reads. We go from 2 high to 1 high, and we see him here be able to, understand where that's at and go down to the timing route here, or the little bit of a stop.
Yeah, and he's got to make sure his guy gets there. And so this isn't, he sees it and then throws it. And so this becomes, an arm strength throw.
Yeah.
And so again, I'm just talking for the audience out there. When we talk about, if you don't have the arm, you can anticipate things and still and work it like that. That happens. In these times where you're going to be a see it, throw it. Like, I saw my guy break, the DB's turned. Okay, my guy's open. Now I'm going to get up in there and throw. Now I got to get the ball in there before anybody can react.
Yeah.
And close and break it. And so this is a measure of arm strength to me.
I think this is a play we're going to, for the next 5 minutes, this is basically going to be plays we've already seen that how close were Matt, Dan, and Mark in terms of plays that we decided to submit to this. So this is my submission of guys, and we've already seen this particular play.
No, we haven't seen this one yet.
No, we didn't?
No,
we did.
This was a miss.
Actually, that's right. That's right.
And this is the Fehoko kid, right? I think he ran 4.4 or something. So this is you're not watching a 4.65. He just airmails this thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right play, not good execution.
Right read again, and you're throwing a guy, and this is that up the red line throw, where he's putting some things on the line. He doesn't seem to have certain feel. He didn't throw his guy to success here. He had to put more air if he's going to throw to that spot.
Yep. And that's his issue a lot of times, is he doesn't put enough air under the ball.
Yeah.
And again, if your building feels like that's fixable, I'm always interested then in Kenny Zampese's line of like, I want the kid that at 10 years old could hit the street sign with a snowball.
Right.
Like there's a level of accuracy that, guys are almost born with. And you can fine tune a lot of things, but if you can't hit that street sign with a snowball, we're probably not going to get that in there. I don't find him to be so far off, but you're going to, if you're going to build a room for him, I do care about catch radius receivers. Davis, from what I've seen.
Now I know why I love Chad Kelly so much, because I could hit the street sign with a snowball, but I also aim the snowball or the rock at the hubcap of the 18-wheeler running across the street in one direction that would bounce off and hit the Mercedes and kill the engine. So that might be part of it. So
I was wondering if Chad was going to come up today.
Contractual obligation.
It is.
I was going to say we're on brand, right?
Exactly. I have to do that. So there we go. And with 2 minutes to spare, I think. And this is one of those plays too where you're like, does he have to make this throw? And the placement is very iffy. It's high enough for Fehoko to win, but still, you want this further outside. I don't know. I didn't particularly love that.
Yeah, he has some pretty soft decisions, particularly when the coverage is over rotating. He feels like it's 1-on-1. He was willing to take shots with 13.
Let's see if this is same play. So we already saw that. We already saw this one, I believe. Nope, we didn't see this one.
That's a new one.
All right, so this one was this one I thought was interesting throw, because like the play before, you have the linebacker playing far off, and it's a dangerous throw if you ask me. I mean, he places it back shoulder well enough if you're just looking at the man in primary coverage of Fehoko, but he again pre-snap, this is the guy playing off, and he doesn't recognize how he may need to place this. And to me, if this defender gets his eyes up, if it happens like the last time, this could be an interception.
100%. I mean, and again, so when you're trending, right?
Yeah.
Me, I'm making note, and again, it happens again. And so these are those things you have to work through. Why was this result happening here?
Yeah.
You know, again, can he just not process number one outside when he's in these things? Does he get tunnel vision when he sees a certain matchup? Because NFL DCs are going to hunt on this stuff.
Yeah.
And
they're going to be looking this up.
Yeah, and the college quarterback in this room right now is probably the one who has him ranked based on what college quarterback going to pro might end up doing, which is, well, that's the third interception for the day for Davis Mills, who who got the opportunity, but the way he's processing it, he's missing on these types of throws.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Here's that. No, I guess this is something else.
And this is where, again, when you look at outcomes, just because an outcome is positive or negative doesn't mean what led into it is.
Right.
Yeah. I like the anticipation, didn't like the placement. That was pretty much what I saw here. The ball's out, just a little behind.
Like I said, you're going to want a group of guys that can adjust, right? Because you're not going to – if you just have receivers that need to catch on their face and chest, we're going to have problems. They're going to have to work outside of their strike zone.
I like the ability to drift here, just a quick little drift and throw. That feel in the pocket. Placement isn't horrible, though. You could argue that that's actually a bit of a hospital ball, letting him stretch out there like that. And certainly, maybe this defender
has that result.
Yeah, exactly. So, even though he doesn't take the hit, I don't think. It's just that, well, he does afterwards. Yeah. All right. So I thought we hadn't looked at this game, so I thought I remember looking a little bit here. And let's see what we got. Yeah, just again, this was one of those situations where he doesn't read that as well. Does he think this defender's coming off of it, possibly? And doesn't and it turns out the defender stays with him.
I mean, it's moving that four verts, you got to get that bender. And this is where I've been interested in some of the scheme and receiver coaching, because again, a couple times we've led number two into number one, or at least a window of the corner in number one, with that hard inside and that split out safety, do they really want him to take that vertical, or is that the time where, you basically turn that into an over, or, and really work that inside? And we don't know, right? We don't know intent, but if you look everywhere else on the board, Oregon State's over everything.
Yeah.
The bender makes the most sense, but at the same time, that underneath corner with the protection was all over it. There's it's a really hard throw to make. And so again, I would just want to spend time with some people.
Yeah. Because if it turns out that he's expected to make that throw, he's making the best of what he can with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then you start to feel a little bit, then you're like, wow, well, we're not going to do that kind of stuff. So we feel okay about,
And I think that's where I'm always interested in, is there a line of logic where you can follow and be like, hey, I can understand what they're getting to. I might not get there, but I can understand what they're getting to. I could understand how somebody talks themselves into how they can work. He can work in their offense and they can work their offense around him.
Yeah. Again, this one was just an example of poor placement. We'll move forward here with another. Anticipation. I like the anticipation with this. Again, the placement could be just a little better. The defender is able to knock that ball out, but it's almost there. And almost could either mean it's going to get better or it will never be good enough.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part, as we've talked about. And this is why he's I think probably a tricky player to some extent, but we have enough room because he's not a first round player.
Well, I think if someone out there had the question of like, what's the difference between a first round quarterback and a second round quarterback, it's these things.
Yeah.
It's that you could get through some games if you had to in year one, but you see all the things that you'd have to work on before you felt like you could really put him out there for 16 games.
Yep.
Because it's not some alternate ability of mobility or something like that, or arm, you really unique arm strength or whatever else that's going to make up for some of the lacks.
And then if he shows up and he's like Matt Ryan in like year 2, and we're like, wow, we can go back to this tape and say, well, these are the things he corrected.
These are the things he fixed, yeah.
Yeah. And
they're all human beings. There is an ability to fix things. The question is the percentages.
Yeah.
How likely is it? And then on what timeline? Because if it's going to take them 4 years to fix this, most likely a team's not going to bear with that.
That's right.
Before they move on somewhere else. But if he can fix this in 12, 14 months or under, well, then yeah.
Yeah. 3 years is an eternity in the NFL. So, but this is another, just not great placement. Receiver ends up getting the rebound.
Yeah, that red line ball.
Yep.
He puts a lot of things on a line. He doesn't seem to understand, where he can elevate and put some of the touch in the downfield areas.
Yeah. Same play all three of us have had. Let's see if there's another one here. I think this is it. Yep, this is the same one.
Yep.
Where he rolls out.
Great minds.
Yeah.
Great minds.
Let's see what else we got going on here. This is the other one where. No, this is one.
No, it's a different one.
This is a different one. He takes the pressure, takes the hit, and he actually does place this ball pretty well.
Yep. It's also a good job by that receiver, too, to stay bottom numbers to keep space.
Yes.
So there's a window to drop this in.
There you go. Hold that frame right there, and let's make Mark's point. Again, for somebody that might not, when I talk about the red line, it's 5 yards off the sideline. So, again, bottom of the numbers, that receiver is really fighting to stay there. So now there's that whole window on the outside shoulder for Davis to put that ball, which he uses.
Yep. And it's, you basically invest in that on staying at the number so you can buy back that horizontal space.
Yep.
And we'll see it from this point of view.
And again, so this is that. So consistently, the trend is not that he does not make these, but he can.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so again, you're in that difficult window of, I know he can do it, but I can't seem to get it out of him every time. How do I tighten that up?
And he can do it with a defender smashing him, which is
actually,
a consistent
two of his
thing.
better downfield throws, right? The D tackle from UCLA in his lap, and now this. Two of his better downfield throws have been versus pressure when he just becomes a football player.
Yeah.
Maybe he
So
just
it could be an overthinking thing, right?
Yeah,
so it's possible that he's getting a little bit stiff in those things when he's contemplating.
He just has to, let it go and let it rip. He's been better if he has a chance to sort of think about it. Sometimes you can't let us QBs think. We get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah, we got to let that Brett Favre I got to get hit first, and then I feel like I'm in the game, type of attitude going on there. Knock the sense out of you so that you can play with no sense. I guess I don't know. That same play. Yep. All right. Denver game. Oh, Colorado game here. And this is that back shoulder, I think, or yeah. It's dropped. I like that he wanted to place it where he did.
Yep.
Just receiver wasn't in the best spot.
And that's when people talk in the offseason about receivers and quarterbacks trying to get on the same page and seeing the same things. This is what they're talking about is Six understanding that with the inside leverage, he's not going to throw that ball inside.
Yeah. Nice little step from outside pressure. That was what I really wanted to see, was the ability to see that free man, make the quick little adjustment, set up, throw it where it ain't.
And I like this too, because it does look like this is designed to go to that fast 3 to the flat.
Yeah.
But he sees between the pressure and that linebacker creep it over. If he throws this, bad things are going to happen.
Yep.
So he comes off of it.
Yeah.
So other than the time of not, the 2 times we've seen of him not seeing the number 1 outside corner.
Yeah.
When number 2 starts to tighten it up a little bit, which are that's both of those were serious throws. He sees a lot of the field.
Yes. Yeah. So it's so funny, and that's what makes this tough, because if Mark and I are kind of on the opposite side of this to some degree, I don't think we're that far apart, but if we're going to dramatize it to a degree that we were,
Right.
you know, you could see both points. I mean, it's easy to look at this and go, yeah, you trying to make this decision because if
Yeah.
you know, and then you can see how the politics play into it because if you know if Mark's bringing in leftovers from the dinners that he makes to the and is feeding the head of scouting, all that great food that he makes, and I'm cooking vegan right now, then I know who's going to be listening a little bit better.
I'm
going to fear that at least.
I loved this throw.
Yeah.
I mean, Justin Fields made the same throw against Rutgers. It's that whole shot, late read, too high, like left side of the field to the right. Oh, I guess this is more middle of the field, but still.
Yeah.
You see the footwork underneath him, so you see the mechanics, the technique. He opens kind of to the left, resets to the right.
There are some homes that would be good, especially with aging quarterbacks.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, I meant to stop sharing, but there we go. Stop screen. There we go. All right. So this was great. We got a chance to look into a player who not a lot of people are talking about, but we get a chance to kind of dive into the nuances of what he could be, what he might not, what he may never become, but all the different reasons as to the decision-making factors, which is why, if you're not following Dan and Hatman, you should be following Dan and the Scouting Academy and the work that they do. If you're interested in learning more about evaluating the game, I would highly recommend that you check out Dan's work and the Scouting Academy as a resource. I mean, you're going to get pros who are going to be able to share their experience and share an understanding of what it means to scout in the league. You're going to get some networking resources. And I'm the one explaining it, and I shouldn't be. It should be Dan.
It's
so
all right.
really,
It's all right.
but there's a ton of great people out there who I've had on these shows, from John Owning to Brandon Thorne, who have graduated. Yeah, Mark, who've graduated from the Scouting Academy. We've done work with them and have gained a lot of experience. And if you look at Dan's feed on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you're going to see people who've been hired by college NFL teams. Today, there was a gentleman who got a job at Mississippi State.
No, he was leaving Mississippi State.
Oh, he's leaving Mississippi State. See, there you go. He's already at Mississippi State. Now he's leaving. Where's he going now?
He's going to LSU.
See, check that out. So you can see right there. I mean, and Dan's probably one of the most helpful people in this sphere in terms of, wanting to just help people out who he feels like are doing good work and wants to help them do better work. And I certainly have Dan to thank on that end.
Same here.
Yeah.
We're all trying to lift, rising tide.
Yeah.
We're trying to help each other and, see good people rewarded for good work. That's all we can ask for.
Well, where can they follow you, Dan?
So now I'm regretting to put my handle in here, right?
Yeah,
So
wait, there it is.
that side.
There it is.
Dan_Hatman personally, and then we're at the Scout Academy. So that's a fun account to put out video breakdowns and things of that nature to help people, learn about little tidbits here and there. And if you want to see about my coffee, my kids, and my football thoughts, my personal one is there for you.
Awesome. And of course, the great Mark Schofield, who, we get a chance to, I'm always fortunate to be able to have Mark on pretty much, every week or every other week at certain points during the season. And he's doing great work at TD Wire. You can find Mark at Mark Schofield. You can find him at TD Wire, and finally got Lori Fitzpatrick wrangled, so we're going to get her back on after she schooled me about DJ Chark. We're going to see who she's going to school me on next. That should be fun. Chad Ryder hopefully will be on the schedule fairly soon. We may look at an O-lineman in the coming weeks. We'll see what that is. And then Ray Ray Garvin, I believe, I've extended an invitation to him. We've talked about doing something in recent weeks, so we'll probably do that as well. So this probably will be the second to last one before the NFL draft. Hang in there; it will arrive soon. I'm actually. This is my free time, so I've had people, I bet you can't wait for the draft. I'm like, no, I'd like the draft to be another 2 weeks away. I'm having too much fun just doing podcasts and film rooms and nothing else. But I'm the oddball. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and you guys have a good weekend.